Welcome everyone. You are listening to and perhaps watching Hot Sauce Sports. I'm your host, Piz Del Ruiz. I am joined, of course, by Terry Tam and our producer, Eagle at Master Control. I want nothing more than to come into here and talk about sports. We dealt with life without sports for quite some time at the beginning of this pandemic. And I remember often when we talked about sort of the hazards of playing and different things surrounding that, weird accusations about how, we were happy that there weren't sports being played I found patently absurd because we rely on sports. We need sports to exist, for us to exist. And we've seen our popularity grow recently, and a lot of that is because of the return of sports. But there are moments where things happen that are brought into our realm, and things that are more important than basketball, things that are more important than football or anything else, things that are real life matters. And that's what we saw in the wake of the shooting of Jacob Blake, which happened shortly after actually our show last week. And then since then, of course, we've seen the outpouring of support from professional athletes and specifically NBA players. And we'll get to that in a second. But we're going to listen to some sound very soon, Eagle. I'll cue it up for you. But I just want people to know that we're not trying to politicize anything. We just think that some things are important and some voices deserve to be heard. And we have a platform where we can allow that to happen. And as long as we control our own content, which is going to be always, because that's what we signed up for, we're going to take every opportunity to share messages we find important at any time. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We saw a guy get shot in the back 7 times. We have since seen that the narrative changes and becomes about the gentleman's past. I'll say his name, and we should say it as often as we can. Jacob Blake. We saw questions about his criminal past. We saw him allegedly resisting arrest, an arrest for which we don't know why he was being arrested at this time. Apparently, he had a knife. He was still shot in the back 7 times in front of his family. And if you can't separate the human element of someone being murdered by a police officer in front of his family from the gentleman's past, from the things that were happening in that situation, if you can look at that video and tell me that police officers tried everything to properly de-escalate the situation, then I think we're looking simply at the wrong thing. And you're not listening to the people who say, listen, we need to be seen as human. We need to be treated as human. And that's what a lot of the messaging is and should be around this issue. But Terry and I can speak to this, and Eagle can speak to this. And our voices mean one thing. And I think our support is very important. I think the support of white athletes and white media members is going to be very important moving forward. But I think we also need to lend our platform to black voices. And I think there's a lot of things that Doc Rivers said as head coach of the Clippers that we can't possibly deliver this with the same way that he's going to do, Terry. So let's give the floor to him, and then we'll start the show.
And they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. It's just really sad. We got to do better. But we got to demand better. Like, it's funny. We protest, and they send riot guards, right? They send people in riot outfits. They go to Michigan with guns and they're spitting on cops and nothing happens. The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard, like to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged. You need to be American and outraged. And how dare the Republicans talk about fear? We're the ones that need to be scared. We're the ones having to talk to every black child. What white father has to give his son a talk about being careful if you get pulled over? It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you.
And with that, I think it's time for the news. You know stuff's really on my mind when I don't scream. Terry, it's the news. But Terry, it's the news. How's it going, bud?
Good, you?
I hate starting the show with a somber tone this way. It just there's a lot going on in our world right now, and felt as though it was important to address. The NBA players, they did not play yesterday. They boycotted the games, and then the NBA finally they canceled the last game, the Lakers game at night. Not even giving the Lakers a chance to boycott that game. But we saw what happened. We saw that was what the players decided to do. You actually had an article out about that on hotsaucesports.ca.
Yeah, so I wrote an article on the Milwaukee Bucks, basically just why they canceled their game, why they boycotted.
I mean, it was interesting that the first game of the day was supposed to be the Bucks and Magic game.
Yeah,
right?
and I understand why Milwaukee decided to do that. They didn't feel comfortable because it was, from their town and things like that. So I understood that. I respected the decision. I've told you guys this, and when the news came out that they wanted to boycott, I was like, it's the wrong decision. The reason why I say that is because, and I think there's a lot of people that agree with this, and it comes out with, when you hide behind a curtain, nobody sees you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
J.R. Smith had a good quote, actually. I like it, but it goes
That's a weird thing
point.
to say.
Yeah. No, but he said, you can't hear us, now you won't see us.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that sentiment completely. It's like, we're going to take away something from you. But the people, in my article I wrote, the people that are listening are the ones that
consume the product.
That consume the product, exactly. So it's like you're taking your voice away. And Chris Paul does it well. They ask him, how did you find the game went today? And he said, well, the game, I'm not going to talk about the game. I'm talking about Breonna Taylor and whatever.
Chris Paul, there's been a few players, but Chris Paul's
a lot of people do that.
charge.
LeBron James is great at that too. And it's like, and I feel that pre and post
Cory Harris was doing that as well.
Yeah, pre and post game, I think it's the best way to do it. I mean, it's tough for them to. The league is like 85% black, so I mean, it's understandable that it's probably harder for them to be able to play and focus. But they have to realize.
But that's the other thing. So like, this is where it's a little different. And I've kind of agreed with your sentiment about that in the past, Terry, where you can do more damage and get your voice heard more in front of the camera than if you're not there. Mm-hmm. But I think in this particular instance, given that the players are in a bubble, they're away from families, this could have been any of their family members, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is that they're not with their families. They are sort of they're all alpha males, right? They all see themselves as protectors, as caretakers. They're risking their lives playing during a pandemic in a season basically that's existing just for the purposes agreed. And then they're saying basically, look, we don't feel like playing right now. It's something that's more important to us than the game of basketball. And I don't think I don't think you can deny that from them. I also don't think it's the only thing. I don't think it's the only step. I think you need to work with the team owners, with
Exactly.
with the league representatives, with the league itself to say, hey, how can we make this better? How can we help instigate change in our country? Because it's not happening. Because when people say that the system is broken, they're completely wrong. The system is operating exactly as it was intended. It was intended hundreds and hundreds of years ago to separate the wealthy from the not wealthy, the white from the not white, and that's what we're seeing.
I think it even goes further than that, honestly. I mean, even when you think about when they were trying to figure out what the logistics were going to be, a lot of players, that's when the whole Black Lives Matter movement started with the whole George Floyd incident. And they were already like, I don't want to play. I don't want to be involved in this, right? Like, fuck basketball at that point. And I think it kind of came to a player consensus of, well, if we actually have this stage, we actually will have a voice on the grand level, right?
Look what
and,
they have.
A few months later, the same shit's happening again. So I guess as a player, I'd be frustrated too the whole point of why we're here is to try and instigate change, and nothing's changed.
Well, it's not that nothing's changed. It's that you can't expect it to happen in 2 months either.
Terry, admittedly,
it's been
nothing
400
has
years,
changed.
though.
Well, we don't know.
Aunt
that nothing has
Jemima
changed.
is no longer a therap. Cops got canceled on TV. What has happened in actual social justice?
The Washington football team.
No, but just
Great.
No, but just to say is that nothing has changed. So what were we gonna do? Fire this guy before he shoots Jacob Blake? We don't know what he's gonna do.
How about actual police reform? How about actual governors
Holding
and
them-
municipalities
Are
doing
any of us
something?
on this table aware of whatever was done in Wisconsin for police reform?
Well, not enough if someone was murdered in cold blood.
Well, no, we don't know if this person took all those courses and they're like, okay, he's fine, he's not doesn't we don't know, and this person just reacted in a stupid way.
Well, but again,
we don't know. We don't. We also don't know that
we don't know. We don't know how he was how he is as a police officer. We don't know. We don't know his history. All that, of course. What I'm saying is, we have the juxtaposition right now that a guy going to his car and allegedly having a knife, the only solution is to shoot him in the back 7 times, and then
He was tasered before that too.
He was tasered before that, and we still don't even know the terms by which he was even being arrested in the first place. The second thing is, the next day we have a guy crossing state lines with a gun, underage, who has a criminal record, opening fire into a crowd, injuring and killing people. And he is not apprehended by the police in that moment while holding a firearm in the streets.
They actually drove by. People are saying he shot someone, and they ignored him. And later on, there was a scene of them giving him a bottle of water, just because that's what happened.
I think actually, so that was a bit misrepresented. I was reading about that just before I got here, and apparently that was actually before the shooting, because they were happy the militia was there, which is a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
But they were happy the militia was there to help with the riot.
I find it very sad. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. Literally 4 years ago yesterday, Colin Kaepernick for the first time kneeled for the national anthem. And all the outrage of the just stick to sports, you don't know what you're talking about, protest differently. And 4 years later, we're at the exact same spot. People are still saying protest differently. And frankly, I
You're
completely
still saying he's
understand.
protesting the flag or the anthem, which he's not doing.
I completely understand why it's gotten to this point. Because if it was me and that was my family, because granted, we're privileged, right? If that was my family and my brothers and sisters and uncles that were getting gunned down for completely unnecessarily, I would be extremely frustrated.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is send a message, right? And the message is what? That the basketball players are trying to send a message is what? That we're not going to stand for this anymore. So something has to be done. What are they going to do? We don't know what's been done. Obviously, for that cop to do that, he's not properly trained.
Yeah.
My problem is that you have a white kid, walking in the street with an AR-15, which to me, I'm not pro-gun, but I don't see I can say that I don't want to ban guns. If it's a hobby, it's a hobby, right? This should be locked up, not be able to. You shouldn't be
There
able
should
to
be
open
terms by
carry.
which you own a firearm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this kid who crossed state lines with a gun and him walking up to police officers, if that person was black, well, we don't know, but we can obviously assume that he probably would have been shot in the chest. And
I mean, statistically, we know he would be way more likely to A, be apprehended, B, be arrested, and C, be shot.
also, it's just the way that it's just the problem we have. Also, the biggest problem is media. So you need the way media portrays people. So this kid was portrayed as he wanted an aspiring police officer. That's what he was portrayed at, not as a kid who shot 2 people for no fucking
Not
reason.
as a terrorist.
That illegally brought a gun across state lines, went back home, crossed state lines, was underage, shouldn't have had a gun. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about this kid probably has mental issues.
Just
and he
comply with the law,
yeah,
right?
And he probably would have gone into a movie theater and shot a bunch of people 10 years from now because that kid has fucking issues.
And so there's a couple of things to think about. We're speaking on that, and I think we're actually a good platform for that because we're one of the few cities, well, prior to a lot of recent events anyway, we're one of the few cities in North America that in the last, I don't know, 40 years have had 2 public shootings in the city of Montreal, right? And then the Dawson shooting and the Polytechnic shooting, right? So like we know what that does to a community.
Also, the mosque a few years ago.
That's true.
In Quebec
Jesus.
City.
Well, that wasn't in our city, but yeah, it was close.
But every
enough.
time within 3 months, not even right, 30 days, we've made changes to regulations and legislation.
Yeah.
There's actually the laws are named in the memory of the people who were killed.
Yeah.
Right? You have to do something. It's not acceptable anymore.
And the other thing is, I look at the situation. I look at I can't really say quote because I'm not going to quote him properly, but a sentiment shared by, oh my God, he's one of the OJ attorneys. Can you please look up some of the OJ attorneys?
Well, there's Kardashian who's dead, Cochran who's dead.
No, obviously not them because he wrote a.
I don't know if Johnny
Shapiro?
Cochran's dead.
No,
I don't know if Johnny Cochran.
it was a
dead.
black gentleman. It is a black gentleman. Sorry, Carl Douglas.
Carl Douglas.
Carl Douglas. I remember reading on Twitter. He had posted something he wrote, and he said that only 15% of calls to police stations are a result of violent crime.
Yeah.
But 100% of them are responded to by the same enforcers that deal with the violent crime. And it's never social workers. It's never psychologists. And the police are the first to say that they're not social workers. They're not psychologists. But then we're only training one type of officer to deal with every situation. And clearly the training is such that they see certain people as a threat, other people not as a threat. And either way, let's put it this way. If people are being killed, regardless of skin color, if people are being killed in the streets by a police force, I don't think anyone should be okay with that.
Absolutely not. It shouldn't be. Anybody should be. But and now the thing is, like, people are saying, like, why is they'll split videos or split pictures like online and be like, oh, this is how you handle. This is how cops handle a white person. This is how cops handle a black person. 2 different police officers. Mm-hmm. Show me that police officer in both scenarios. Yeah. Then I can. Then I can make an assessment.
I get the sentiment, but the thing is that a lot of times, look, social media posts are notorious for this. False equivocation is the world we live in right now, where it says, and it's the same argument that you make in a presidential situation, right? It's like, well, this person is at least better than that person. That's not good enough.
Yeah. Whataboutism is not the standard.
Exactly, and that's it. It's that kind of thinking that creates this divisive situation. Like, nobody should be okay with what happened, regardless of who the target was, regardless of what his background was. Nobody should be okay with that, period. And the NBA players, that's how they chose to handle it. Kenny Smith, actually, on his show on TNT, Terry, we'll take a quick look to see what happened last night as they were talking about the NBA protests.
I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight.
Buffering.
Yes, buffering.
Anyway,
for
so
some
either way,
reason.
so then the host says, I respect that, and then he walks off, and we don't see Kenny Smith for the rest of the show.
The most toxic,
which is, I mean, I understand why Kenny Smith did that, and whatever. That's the decision. And in my article, I said, whatever. If you're not comfortable with doing something, you shouldn't do it. Yeah. If I'm not comfortable with driving on the middle lane, I'm not going to drive in the middle lane. Do whatever the fuck you want, whatever you feel you want to do. Obviously within the rules of the law,
yeah,
right?
Because the guy with the AR-15, for example, you shouldn't take that advice.
So, but the problem, what the thing is, he missed out on is that they interviewed the Milwaukee Bucks that episode. And maybe Kenny Smith could have had, and which I respect Kenny Smith a lot. I think he's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that whole cast is.
Yeah, they're all great.
That's the best studio show that's ever existed.
But you had Shaq and Charles, who aren't the most articulate human beings in the world, as intelligent as they are. But Kenny Smith would have. I think Kenny Smith. We missed out on Kenny Smith talking to Yanni and talking to George Hill and talking to these guys that are articulate and smart.
But again,
they were the ones that decided to start the boycott.
But if he's not up to working that day, given what's happening,
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? So like
his decision.
That's where I
But we
sort of
missed
see,
out on it.
and I think in a sense Kenny Smith even has a bigger impact doing that because you never see that on a studio show,
No.
right? Like you've seen athletes do it before, but athletes are also far more protected than somebody who's working in TV, right? So that's something to consider as well. The Lakers and Clippers voted to cancel the remainder of the season. But then when they met with league representatives and union representatives who decided to continue the season, it's very complicated to cancel the season. You don't want a situation where you've worked hard to build up the rapport, to be able to get all the money that allows you to take care of your family. And in a case like someone like LeBron James, who actually has set up a cause to educate people and help prevent police brutality, all that money that's generated goes away if you're in breach of contract. And now the networks have all networks do what they do. They're gonna use that to their advantage in the next bargaining session, and that's why I think the season's not canceled.
Well, I mean, exactly. They're going to use it, and the season shouldn't be canceled. And the reason why what I was trying to say before is that sports unite everybody no matter what. And I think that the people that care, and if you look at the NBA, when you watch an NBA
you say
game
that,
now,
but just ask LeBron versus Jordan, and nobody's united.
when you watch an NBA game now, all you see everywhere is Black Lives Matter. It's just everywhere on their jerseys. And then you take that away, and then you have a silent basketball court with everybody having their own opinions on Twitter. It takes away from the message. Get to the game. Protest before, stand together, show everybody that you're not going to sit down and be quiet. Do everything you have to do. Put on a performance. How many times do we see people celebrate lives with a performance? Celebrate these people's lives with a performance. Celebrate these people's lives with showing that you care. We care about the community.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about the community.
I think
bring everybody to fucking together and just get it over with.
I think if the Players Association would have said, you know what, we're willing to sacrifice some money for this cause, great. You know what, I salute you. If they decide to cancel one game like they did, I salute you. I do think that's only the beginning, though. I think again, you are the ones with power. Like Muhammad Ali was the one with power. He sacrificed his career, the prime of his career, and years of freedom to protest the Vietnam War.
The 61 Olympics as well, or 60 Olympics.
Yeah, and
it wasn't necessarily
we saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sort of be outspoken.
It wasn't necessarily to protest the war. I mean, it was a little bit, but with him was that they're forcing him to go to war, and he's like, "Why?"
Well, and you could look up the statistics of the people that were recruited to go to war and how many on the frontline soldiers were actually white and how much were not, and how many were forced to go to war due to financial hardship and there's a whole bunch of things that are tied into that, which again we talk about to this day because of Muhammad Ali. So I think the players have a chance to use their voice, and they did so in one way. The WNBA players actually had another protest. We see this is the Washington football team again. Their team is the Washington Mystics. Guys, I'm tired, man. I'm doing a lot these days, but we see here their protest. All right, so I'll describe it as we're dealing with technical difficulties.
It's on now. So I don't
think there's sound. They have they have
Jacob Blake spelled out on their shirts, and then they have 7 bullet wounds.
Yeah, on the back of their t-shirts.
On the back of their t-shirts. So I mean, dramatic, but sometimes I think that you need to be a little bit more dramatic to get such a message across.
But also, like if you're talking about, look, you're saying like you got to play, you got to get out there so you can share your message. That's what they're doing, right? That's the other way to handle this. And of course, on Twitter, you see, well, NBA, that's not how you handle it. WNBA, that's not how you handle it. Well, how do you handle it then? Just say nothing? Okay, I guess that's what you. That's protest.
Who's saying that's not how you handle it?
Oh, dude.
Listen, I understand
Twitter's toxic. Man.
That might be drastic, the bullet wounds on the back, but sometimes it's like, well, we need to show you guys what was done. The guy, I mean, I think the day after it happened, I went for dinner with a few friends, and I said that was the worst video I had seen, and he didn't even die. I didn't even see him die, and that was the worst video I've ever seen. That and Philando Castillo were the 2 worst videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, and obviously the George Floyd one where he's narrating his death was...
Yeah.
I mean...
But the thing with that is...
What you're hearing is worse than what you're seeing.
The body cam shot and everything with the audio is fucking gut-wrenching, man. Yeah. Where they open his door and they're like, please don't shoot me. Like, oh, man, it's just...
For George Floyd?
Yeah. It tears my heart up.
But there was like 10 minutes of that where he's like, just don't shoot me. And he's like, guy's like, I'm not going to shoot you.
Yeah,
And
I'll
he's like,
strangle
just
you
don't.
instead.
He's like, no, yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I don't think that the guy Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, the loser that he is, I don't think he intended to kill the guy. I just think he was so stupid and he was so cocky that he thought that he would be able to just put his knee on the guy's neck and nothing would happen.
But I think
because you're a fucking.
But
idiot.
that's the thing is police officers.
If you took one course of self defense or one course of maybe a jiu-jitsu class, you would know that what you're doing is stopping blood flow to a person's
or
fucking
just
brain.
like high school science, you need
but-
blood, you need air.
No, but I didn't know what choking somebody did. What choking somebody did to their brain. It doesn't choke you. It's not like he couldn't breathe. His brain was shutting off.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They're like, oh, he died of cardiac arrest because his brain shut off.
Yeah.
Because he might have been on drugs, but that doesn't mean that he deserves.
That's
to
the other
die.
thing. And another thing. So
with
you read the same thing I did about the defense of the cops.
Yeah, but another.
So they're saying that he killed himself.
Yeah.
By having taken fentanyl, and having a heart condition. Yeah, but those weren't the things that put the knee on his back.
Okay, so I'm gonna go run my car over anybody, and if that person has a drug problem, it's because he
Oh
had a
no,
drug
he had
problem. That's how
cancer.
died.
So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
He was mortal anyway. So he was born with a defect. Yeah, definitely. The NFL, and I know like this is the first segment of this show is gonna be heavy. We want to get to the dick jokes as quickly as you do. I promise. We have a great show. Actually, we're going to talk to our friend Cory Kennedy, who works with the Chicago Cubs. We're very excited to have him on the show. But before we do that, we do have one more heavy topic. Then we'll get to the jokes. I promise. I see Terry's eyes. He's angry with me that it's such a heavy show. But
No,
it's not my fault.
I don't mind
it's
at
the
all.
world that we're living
It's
in right
something
now.
that we
you
have
know?
to talk about, right? So.
It sucks. And look, here's another one. And I know that you and I are both tired of talking about this because we've been doing, as long as we've had this show, we've been talking about a quarterback who we probably would have stopped talking about if he was just allowed to play. His name is Colin Kaepernick. His career probably on the down end when he protested, but still, the thing is, we can't deny the things that happened while he was in the NFL. And now Roger Goodell coming out saying he should have listened. He did this, by the way.
I didn't see this at all.
Oh, I don't actually have a video clip because I couldn't find one that was short enough.
You broke it to me. I didn't even know.
I'll break it down. So he basically apologized, saying, "Hey, look, I should have listened." He actually said he was never protesting the anthem or the flag, which I thought was particularly powerful coming from the NFL commissioner, and highly criticized NFL commissioner, especially on this show. And then the next thing was he actually did this without telling the league owners, without telling the team owners.
That's good.
He actually went and took this interview and handled the interview the way he felt he was.
Is
was
this
appropriate.
He interviewed Colin Kaepernick? Or
No, he was interviewed by someone about on the
I thought
anniversary.
he sat down. Sit down with him.
Well, that's the thing is
I mean, this is a good step.
like it's a good start, and the thing is you've also earned our skepticism by doing nothing for 4 years.
Yeah.
By being so strong a supporter of the opposite opinion for 4 years. Now, give us something for 4 years. Show us how committed you are to your membership, to your players, to guys and their causes within your league. Show us how important that is to you, and don't let it stop with an interview. Don't let it stop with a single act of protest. Like, let it continue. It can't just be the Washington football team changes their name. It has to be a continued effort.
Well, the Detroit Lions, protesting, and that's organic. You have to make sure that everything is organic because everything becomes the same copy paste. Nobody's gonna listen anymore. If I'm listening to a podcast and like if I like listening to Joe Rogan, but sometimes I'm not going to listen to him because I feel like I'm going to hear the same arguments he's going to make a lot, so I'm not going to listen to that argument. It comes out to the same thing where it's like, don't just be a copy paste. And I think that's what the NBA was trying to do is like we're trying to just do something a little bit different to open your eyes to something.
Well, but to be fair, it was individual players and then individual teams and then.
Oh no, I get that, but something.
It actually started with Fred VanVleet.
Exactly, something triggered them to do something different, and it's not just we're going to talk about it because everybody's been talking about it. It's not just posting a black picture because everybody did that. It's not just hashtagging Black Lives Matter because everybody did that. It's not just that. And another thing is the article that I wrote came out. The first like we got on Twitter was from this random account. This show is brought to you by Mike's BBQ Rub, home of the best rubs in town and La Sauce barbecue sauce. Peace.
Just like rubber craft, I can't resist a good rub down, and Mike's barbecue sauce is the best rub down in town.
So visit Mike's BBQ Rub, MTL.com, and use Hot Sauce 10 promo code for 10% off on all individual bottles. That's Hot Sauce 10 for 10% off. And don't forget to rub your meat peas.
Welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Cory Kennedy. He is the head of S&C Performance Science, MILB, at the Chicago Cubs. That's a lot of words. We know what Chicago Cubs are. We don't know any of the other words. Cory, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what you do with the Cubs?
Perfect. I'd love to do that, Pease. Thanks. So I am the head of strength and conditioning and performance science for the minor league side of the Chicago Cubs. So every Major League Baseball team will have the Major League team you watch, the 32 teams in the league or 30 teams, and then they have essentially 170 players in the minor leagues. We have 8 levels of minor leagues below that as players go from drafted to filtering all the way up to the majors. So I have a colleague, Shane Wallen, who essentially looks after the strength and conditioning, all the training for the major league team, and then I oversee all of those minor league levels. So that's
you're
the
gonna
training.
Sorry, you're going to be the guy that wears all the Chicago Cubs gear all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you work in that job.
I find it's like that with baseball, where it's like as soon as you work for the team, it's like that's the only thing you wear.
So, Cory, I have to share this story with you. I was looking for your profile on Facebook because I wanted to get your title right.
Yeah.
And as I was looking you up, I clicked on the wrong Cory Kennedy. There's another Cory Kennedy who looks similar to you but is just jacked. So my question is to you, why aren't you more jacked?
Yeah.
You know what? I guess I just spend too much time working and not enough working on myself.
Well, we spend too much time eating. That's why we're not jacked.
That's why we're not jacked.
It's funny because I had the exact same question because I'm like, strength, conditioning, and performance. I'm like, well, you don't look very strong. You clearly don't use conditioner. And performance, I mean, I don't really want to know about your sex life.
No, I want to know. Tell me about your performance.
In general?
Yeah.
Yes.
Give yourself a grade.
Not talking. 7.
7's a good
Not
one.
bad, not bad. I like it because it's not too braggy, but you know he's confident enough to give you that 7.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot to put the
So
sponsors here.
did they ship you off to the Windy City? Like, where you at now?
No, so I'm in South Bend, Indiana. So really quickly,
Why Indiana?
Perfect. This 2020 Major League season, what is extremely different is that they essentially canceled all of the minor leagues with COVID and everything happening there. And instead, to play this season, every team gets a 60-player pool. So they have 28 that are playing for the Cubs at the moment and another 32 that are available to be called up and down. So we have one of our affiliate minor league teams is based in South Bend, which is only 2 hours away. And we have really good facilities at this place. So we essentially have a group of players here where we're keeping them ready to be called up for double headers, for injuries, for if we happen to get any COVID illnesses. So we essentially just train every day to be ready, and a guy can literally at any moment be sent a car to drive 2 hours and play at Wrigley that night.
Do
So
they get like a
every
town car, or
team,
they get rented a car and they have to drive themselves. Very important.
no, they get a service. They get a car service. Someone comes
so
with
they
a
can,
pretty
car.
sweet.
So they can
Town
take a
car,
snooze
yeah.
in the car. Maybe look at the plays.
That's it.
Yeah, I get it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Eagle, how come you don't send me a fucking shuttle service to come here?
He sends it to me.
Because I don't give a shit about you.
He sends it to me. That's why. Cory, you prior to this, you've had a couple of stops, but one of your stops is you worked with Canadian Olympians and you trained them for the Olympics. Tell us the important question I think that's on everyone's mind is how much sex exactly happens in the Olympic Village?
I don't have a number.
You don't have a number,
but it's
okay.
a lot.
7?
It's a lot.
Is
So
it 7?
We heard there's a bucket of condoms. How fast does that condom bucket go down?
I think it gets refilled. As a general rule, people obviously train extremely hard for a very long time for that task of going to the Olympics. So once people have finished their competitions, generally they have a lot to celebrate for.
Yeah.
But is it predominantly
Big
only
stress.
after their events? Like, it's not like a warm-up type of thing where they're like getting into it,
No.
the adrenaline?
Well,
I
they're not horses. They don't need to drain it before.
Actually,
they go.
maybe Cory, maybe you can clarify this. Growing up playing football, my coaches always told us don't jerk off before the game because apparently it makes your legs heavy. I never really believed it, so I'm asking Cory, does that have an effect on your performance?
There's actually like conflicting science around it. So some people will feel like a boost of of hormones or whatever that could be positive, but then there's definitely people who just get knocked out and want to sleep for days.
Because I subscribe to this thing called T Nation and
Yeah.
Testosterone Nation, and apparently when you jerk it, and your body has to build
Replenish.
more sperm, so your testosterone is higher. So you're probably better off.
I'd say in general, you're probably better off having a normally healthy sex life than to be repressed for your entire life.
There you go. Like,
There we
see,
go.
Cory, that's
There
why
we
we
go.
had you on, man.
He's the best.
Now we understand the performance part of your title.
There you go.
I get it.
So Cory, between between training Olympians and working with the Chicago Cubs, you had a pit stop with the worst organization in the history of sports, and I imagine that's why you left. The New York Jets. How was your time with the Jets? I'm a Dolphins fan, so I,
I
had
don't know.
to.
Washington football team's looking pretty bad now, though.
Okay, second worst.
Yeah.
Second
I
worst
was-
after the Washington football team.
I'm a Dolphins fan too, Pease. I was never with
nice.
the Jets.
I
was
didn't
never
know
with
that.
the Jets.
Sorry?
I wasn't with the Jets.
Oh, my mistake. I thought I remember seeing you
No,
post.
I would have a hard time there. I'm a lifetime Dolphins fan.
There
Or,
we
or
go.
maybe,
Okay.
or maybe you get hired as the Jets and you start
Sabotage.
sabotaging
Yeah,
them.
'cause
Yeah.
that's what I was. I thought you were with the Jets. And I was going to start asking you, like, can you sabotage players?
Yeah,
No,
throw away
it's
all
been
my
done.
years of education.
Yeah.
I mean,
All-
just
my
sabotage
entire
Sam
career,
Darnold.
you
Sam
know.
Darnold, your ACL is not torn.
Because also
Get
he
on
had
the
mono last year, so I was like, Cory?
Yeah.
But do
Was
I?
that Cory?
But do I need to? Is the question. I mean,
It feels like
gave
they're just
them
sabotaging themselves.
we gave them Adam Gase.
I was just gonna say it.
It's true. It's
We
true.
were-
I was so happy when he got hired as the Jets head coach. I think it happened while we were on the show, and I laughed for so long. I was inconsolable. What's the opposite of inconsolable? Happy. I was happy. I was very
Elated.
happy. Elated. That's a good one.
Yesterday we were supposed to cut Kalen Ballage, and today we traded him to the Jets. So it's still working.
It's like it's like cutting him, but better. So I'm gonna ask you a question
Best way to
about.
cut somebody, trade him to the team that sucks in your division.
I was gonna ask you a question about one of the major league players on your team, Jason Hayward. As a result of seeing the NBA protests, he actually came out ahead of his team and said, okay, well, I'd like my team to play tonight, but I'm not comfortable playing tonight. Do you have any insight to how that was handled within the team and how the team felt about that in the moment?
Honestly, like yesterday, we didn't hear much about it here, and until kind of right before the game, he became a healthy scratch, and we kind of all figured out why. You know, it wasn't a surprise where we thought, oh, did he tear a hamstring or something? I think we all had that inclination that was what was going on, and then today. Our general manager, Jed Hoyer, talked about it a little bit about how just the fact that it happened so quickly that they didn't have any chance as a team to like sit down and talk about it. So it kind of caught everyone off surprise. He was like, I'm going to do this, but like guys are throwing in a bullpen, guys are hitting balls underground in Wrigley in the cages, guys are over here. Well, they're actually in Detroit, but the same idea holds. So that was a bit why, and then today we're off, so they didn't have a game to figure that out. But that was kind of the insight that we've gotten out of that is just that it happened so quickly that they didn't get a chance to poll the team, see how everyone felt, and I guess as a sport, there wasn't very much in baseball. They had a few teams that chose not to play, but it wasn't across the board like NBA did.
So obviously we get like the media's portrayal of what's going on and everything, but do you have any insight in terms of, first off, just as a team management, like what's the general feel of the club, or even like, how are you supporting the players or the initiatives basically, and maybe at even a Major League Baseball level, or, your message to the commissioner in terms of what to do? Are you kind of involved in any of that?
Do you mean with COVID or with BLM and everything social?
I mean, let's go with both. I was going to go more with BLM, but
Let's
yeah.
start with BLM, then we'll talk about COVID.
Well, BLM, when it first started, let's take out the last 2 days because it's been so fresh and happened and we're still playing and everything is going on. But in the first round, there was a lot through the organization around from the top down, trying to set up different, ways that people could express themselves, talk about it, working groups to kind of figure out not only players and staff, but like, what is our staffing like? How many people of minorities or color or women? Baseball, like our sport, is crazy in that we were one of 3 teams this year who had a female coach. Mm-hmm. We have a staff of hundreds, and so to be one of only 3 major league teams to have a woman uniform coach is still crazy.
Well,
Like
you don't
that's
see- you don't see,
that's
I mean,
insanely small.
especially like in like growing up and with kids, you don't see a lot of girl baseball teams. You see that was because I was behind the mic. You don't see a lot of girl baseball teams. You see more softball. So I mean, I can understand that. Obviously, we need more diversity in everything we do, but we don't hear much about lack of diversity in baseball when it comes to females because baseball is not really.
Well, but you say that, but
There's
like
there's no pro league
but it's not
for
just
women.
it's not just bench coaches, right? There's guys like Cory.
Oh,
or
trainers
something.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
With, yeah, for sure.
There's
yeah.
a lot of staffs that don't include a lot of women, unfortunately.
Oh, it's because Cory mentioned coaches. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, strength and conditioning coaches.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think it's a lack of opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if we continue there, both with that BLM stuff they started, and our president Theo Epstein was one of the more vocal executives in baseball around us doing a better job, not just with players and allowing them to express themselves, but then how do we as an organization start to hire, better and more with more quality. So that's something that started right away, which I think it was nice to hear from your organization that they were expressing these things both internally and externally.
Yeah.
And then COVID has been crazy too, because that's like we're operating under a bubble, and it's constantly doing everything you can to keep everyone safe, and you're always thinking of new kind of protocols of like, well, we shouldn't do this, let's do this instead. Like just as a gym, for example, we went from I had to build a second weight room at this site, like a temporary one in one of our batting cages, because we can just not have as many guys walking around a weight room as you normally would. We're trying to keep people apart, keep people from touching the same stuff all the time. And I think we're still the only team in baseball to not have a positive COVID test for staff or players this year. So
Yeah.
some of it's working, which is good, but it takes a lot. Like everything they do all day, it's like, we can't have a cafeteria where we're feeding people, so you have to get food deliveries in individual, containers and all sorts of things, so that guys don't have to go out and try to, go to the supermarket all the time and do social stuff.
So I'm a meathead, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really understand things, especially when it comes to intelligence.
I've noticed.
I'm a decent talker, all that stuff. So when it comes
That
to
last
COVID,
sentence was a little bit of a struggle.
This was a great example.
exactly. So so when it comes to COVID, I wear my mask, I sanitize. I have like 3 bottles of sanitizer all the time.
We're 6 feet apart.
What?
We're 6 feet apart.
We're 6. Are we? I don't even know if we are or not. But yeah, so we keep distance. We've always kept this distance because
We don't like each other that much. Yeah.
I measured it for you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Eagle. So call me a fucking idiot, but when everybody's in a bubble, isn't it okay to be in the same gym? Like if you're 20 guys in the gym, isn't it? Like, wouldn't it be okay because everybody's getting tested regularly? Like, I'm sure these guys are getting tested on a weekly basis, right? Or maybe on a daily basis.
Every second day for players, every fourth for staff.
Okay.
So what it is like with that gap in testing, let's say somehow like you had to run to Target to get toothpaste last night, and you get something, and tomorrow's not a testing day. The idea is like, one, the bubble is hopefully to prevent it from coming in, but it still is possible. So once it's in, you're just constantly trying to find ways that it can't spread to 20 players in a day. If all of a sudden some guy had to go to Target and a cashier coughed on him and he came in and turns out he had it, and the next day he tests. So when he tests, Nate comes back positive and you send him to quarantine. But that day he's here, if you can have, space, you can clean down the dumbbells and bars after he used them so the next guy's not touching the same one, then hopefully if that were to happen, then you'd have one guy positive. And then instead, if everyone's high-fiving and hugging and using the same dumbbells, then
And
all
in
of a sudden
baseball, they have like 100 different handshakes where they touch each other like 45 different places on their body, so they're more likely to get the virus.
Exactly.
So
Or
then
even
you
just-
hope it just doesn't spread. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Even just something as simple as filling up your car at the gas station, right? You pick up the pump the guy before you
Yeah.
had it. Now you have it.
I
Congratulations.
have a box of gloves, and I just take one out, and I just use that one hand every time I go. And there's some gas stations that have gloves.
I just have my driver take care of it. Cory,
The driver that Eagle sends for you. To
yeah,
get
exactly. Cory, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon because you're honestly, as long as I've known you, you've been a super interesting, really nice guy. So we're always happy to have you, and you can of course provide us with insight that's not easy for us to get. Eagle, I'm trying to wrap up the segment.
I have a
Oh my God!
I have a really
No, it's
fun
good, it's
question
good.
here.
Let's
Is
keep
there any
Cory
like
on.
Okay.
weird saber metric that we've never heard of that's
Yeah, that's a
interesting
good
for you?
Good question.
I mean, not really. They're all kind of out there now, but
Like
you
balls
know,
to knee ratio?
yeah, something
Like how far
that.
your
No.
balls are from your knee? Is that a predictor of how
ones are
healthy
good,
hamstrings
like-
are?
Let him answer the question.
I'm sorry.
No, but we do stuff like we try to test things off the field that we hope are going to be predictors of performance that we're not going to tell you right now because we don't want other teams to know. Hopefully we have a
So
head
give
start.
us
But-
one you
but-
know is ineffective,
Yeah.
and we can promote it as effective.
Yeah.
So other teams, we can fool other teams. We can
We
fool the
have a
Marlins.
very big following in Taiwan for
Yeah,
some reason.
they-
Balls to knee ratio.
balls to
Yeah,
knee
balls
ratio, right?
Yeah,
That's the
balls to
biggest
knee
one.
ratios are good. So well, actually, one last question, Corey.
Oh my god.
Fact.
I'm built like a baseball player. Okay, I'm short,
Yeah.
stocky.
From the 30s, yeah.
Yeah, from the 30s. No, I mean I feel like I'm built like kind of like Trout. You know, he's stocky.
You look like
thick,
a Pete
you
Rose.
know?
It's not-
yeah,
you're not built like
I'm
Pete
pudgy.
Rose.
I'm pudgy.
You
right?
kind of look like Kyle Schwarber actually on our team.
Oh, I can't stand Kyle Schwarber. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Our left
Nobody can.
fielder.
I'm a Mets fan, so it's a.
Good dude. Sorry about
Actually, I don't mind him that much. But you know, anyway. So, what do you think my chances are? Never played. I mean, I played baseball as a kid, like for one season. What do you think my chances are if you trained me full time for
0.
3 months? What do you think my chances
0.
are of hitting a home run?
0.
Especially at your age. Like,
Wait.
So Mike Trout is
hold on,
6'2",
hold on.
235.
Wait. Are we talking like off a tee or like a soft toss? Or are you talking
No,
about
like-
like a real pitcher?
Like
Because a real
batting
pitcher is
practice. A real pitcher batting
Okay.
practice though, not in game.
batting practice. So we're talking like a 60 mile an hour, 55, 60 mile an hour from a coach.
Yeah, maximum 70. Like we're really pushing it here. Like maybe he wants to prove a point.
Wooden bat, or you have like an aluminum
I
power?
don't know.
maybe?
I'm going wooden bat all the time.
So
Just for
good.
the sound alone.
You know, I bet you could get a good solid fly ball. I don't know about a home run, but
Like a pop,
you
like a
could
pop
probably,
fly, maybe a
yeah,
double.
we could probably do some lifting and have you hit off a tee every day to get that feeling of the bat.
Oh, nice.
You definitely wouldn't hit major league pitching, but
Okay, cool. I'm coming to Chicago. I love Chicago. One of my
He's
favorite cities.
in Indiana, though, so you're going to the wrong city.
Yeah, but he'll just drive me. Send your car. Send your car to pick up
the
Cory.
service.
Meet me downtown.
By the way, so Mike Trout is 6'2",
yeah,
235 pounds. You're not built like
I'm
Mike Trout.
5'9", 250.
Yeah, it's not the
I'm
same
more.
thing.
I'm more center. I have
You're
a
like
better,
a little teapot.
I have a
Short
better
and
center
stout.
of gravity. You know? So
look up La Tortuga,
oh no, I know what that is.
Astudillo from Minnesota,
Yeah, he
and
is.
that's who you are.
I feel like I'm a Prince Fielder though.
Or move on.
Movan was like
Movan.
6'4", no?
That's true. He's a big guy.
Obama was massive. He
Yeah,
was
it
tall.
was a tank.
Yeah. So,
For sure.
Cory, thank you for joining us. We'll talk soon. Hopefully, when all of this, once this pandemic is completely behind us, we can come down and visit you and go watch a game in Chicago.
Yeah, I won't be in Indiana after the pandemic. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. So let's get you
There's
out
a-
of
there's
Indiana
there's a
at
temporary
Wrigley,
spot.
and we'll have a good time.
Most boring
All right.
state of all time.
Yeah, beers on me, boys. Have a good one. Cory, talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Cory.
Later.
This show is brought to you by Mike's BBQ Rub, home of the best rubs in town and La Sal's barbecue sauce, peas.
Absolutely. They will get you satisfied in 12 seconds or less, just like Rick Pitino at that restaurant.
So visit Mike's BBQ Rub, MTL.com, and use Hot Sauce 10 promo code for 10% off on all individual bottles. That's Hot Sauce 10 for 10% off. And peas, don't forget to rub your meat.
Well, we promised that things would get lighter after our interview, and they will in a second. But, of course, as we're a news show, news breaks while we're on the air sometimes. And sometimes it's an ex-NFL player making an ass of himself. Brian Urlacher had the following to say, Terry, right before we get into rapid fire. Brett Favre played a Monday Night Football game the day his dad died, threw 4 touchdowns in the first half, and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. Apparently, this is the same thing as the following. NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife, wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant, was shot by police. So, again...
We can keep it light and make fun of Brian Urlacher for being a complete fucking moron.
Yeah, and bro, what are you doing with those plugs, man? We all know you're bald. It doesn't make you more attractive. You're still ugly as fuck.
So, I mean, okay, so when I'm about to tweet something, okay,
You think for 5 seconds?
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the times that I don't, it's because it's a joke or something
Yeah.
stupid. It's not nothing serious. When it's something serious, I'll actually take the time to think, okay, if I'm writing this, what's the message I'm trying to send? The message he's trying to send is saying that these guys are what? Privileged guys that make too much money, that shouldn't stand for something that they believe in or whatever it is. I don't know what the fuck Brian Urlacher is trying to get to, but he's clearly a dumbo. And I don't know how he could have read an offense before.
Rapid fire. First one.
Did you make the sound while making the sound?
Nope.
But did you? I heard
did it.
someone making mouth
I did.
guns. Nice.
Coyote Ugly. The NHL has penalized the Arizona Coyotes for violating combine testing. Long story short, they did their own combine, which you cannot do for draft prospects. As part of the penalty, they have to give up their 2020 second round pick, as well as their 2021 first round pick, and I believe are fined $250,000.
Yeah.
This apparently ties back to, I never remember his name, Chaka, there we go, who has basically botched the job of general manager and fucked the Arizona Coyotes.
And he
for a
quit
long
like
time.
before all this stuff came out, which is awesome.
He was a 26-year-old like analytics guy. He's not even like a real hockey guy. He coached. He was a general manager in junior, and he brought his program there to like kind of like moneyball the situation. And the Coyotes are doing well.
Yeah.
You
So
know what I mean?
So I mean, that was my question
though.
though. Is so like this type of cheating? Is it like Patriots cheating, where like yes, you get you get named as cheaters, but like you still win a bunch?
No,
so.
I think that because if you read the report sent out by the NHL, is that the penalty to this is a $250,000 fine. So they're like, we'll take the fine. Basically, I think that what they did
They
was
gambled on. We'll take.
they
the fine,
gambled.
who
We'll take
cares?
the fine, and we'll still get our first and second round pick. And they're like, well, NHL's like, well, go fuck yourself. It's not gonna happen.
That's the thing, right? You have to do it so that the team will actually pay the price.
Yeah.
Mike Milbury has been let go / resigned /
No, he was
decided
fired.
to
He got
step
canned.
away.
No, he's not.
Really? I
Yeah,
saw
so
NBC said they were cutting ties with him.
No.
No,
So
he just said he's gonna take away himself out of the situation
For the
until
rest
end
of the season,
rest of
yeah.
the season. So
Really?
it's still not official and the whole shit or whatever. Anyways,
you know
he's
why?
been-
Because what he said wasn't that bad.
But it's so I get it. I get so what he was joking about. He was making light of something that I think if you or I make that joke, especially in our context, it comes off one way. In a professional
on a
broadcast,
national broadcast.
it comes off,
yeah.
but also
I agree.
take that and then make that a guy who constantly makes an ass of himself. Make it Mike Milbury.
So the
make it Don Cherry, and he's actually fired for his career of making an ass.
For
of himself.
context, we can actually say this because there's nothing like bad in it, let's say. But basically, he said the bubble is good because the players aren't getting distracted by women.
By women, aren't getting disrupted. No, women aren't disrupting the players' concentration.
Yeah.
So what he meant by that, and I think we all said the same thing probably hundreds of times, is that these kids are 20-year-olds. Okay, some of them they're 25,
And
single.
they love sex.
They're full of testosterone and they want to bang. Okay, and there's these guys. If they were in if there was no COVID and they did a bubble, they'd be out every fucking night.
But so
partying.
here's the thing. Stan Van Gundy actually said something recently on Twitter that was similar, where he said that there's less distractions. They're not. They don't having to deal with their wives and families.
Yeah.
That
That's okay.
that comment could be misconstrued, right? Like don't have to deal with their wives.
Yeah.
Because family's not important.
What the fuck?
That's not what he was saying. But had Stan Van Gundy not had the reputation he currently has as being a smart, thoughtful guy, had he had Mike Milbury's reputation, he would have also been dragged.
I think NBC is looking for any reason to get rid of Milbury. because
Just like
Milbury,
CBC got rid of Don Cherry.
Exactly, because Milbury is an old tart that does not know how to speak anymore, and he really doesn't know much about new hockey.
Correct.
But say what you want to say about his skills as a broadcaster, I don't think he should have been removed. Because I think the comments, he comes out with an apology. Maybe you clarify what your sentiment was and you get rid of it, because I really felt that he was just saying these guys are not being distracted by anything outside. And usually what 20-year-old kids, millionaires, do is they go out and they look for girls.
Absolutely. And look,
And these girls, it's
but
not,
look, but
it's
I
not
will say,
unsolicited either.
my counterpoint to that is later in rapid fire with someone else making a mistake.
I heard a good one where they should replace him with Ilya Bryzgalov. It's only a game. Why you have to be mad? Couldn't
good.
keep pace. Indiana Pacers cut ties with Nate McMillan shortly after extending his contract because that makes sense.
So I mean,
go ahead. I'll let you, as the Pacers fan, the resident Pacers fan, I'll let you start, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I think this was stupid to fire him. I mean, they really went above and beyond, and
No one expected them
no
to
one
be
expected
that
to be
good.
anywhere where they were. No one expected him to turn TJ Warren into a 50-point shooter. No one expected them to be anywhere close to where they were. And at the end of the day, I think that you're in a division where you need to have some sort of consistency. You're in a conference, you need to have some sort of consistency to compete. They don't have the pieces to compete with the top three, with the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Bucks. They don't have that. Even the Sixers.
I thought they were, even as healthy, the Miami Heat were a bad matchup for them.
Bad matchup for them.
And they weren't healthy.
They weren't.
Sabonis was hurt.
Oladipo was hurt.
Oladipo was obviously hurt. He looked like a shadow of what
Yeah.
he has been. Honestly, the saddest thing about this is they may have let go of McMillan today, but they're going to also lose Oladipo in this process because, look, it's a team with no consistency.
Yeah.
It's a team, obviously, that couldn't keep the players healthy. Sometimes it's not the team's fault.
Oladipo might even go back to Oklahoma City if Chris Paul stays there because I think that he liked it there. When he left, when he got traded for Paul George, he spoke really highly about the city and the organization. Yeah. So I think that Oladipo, as a free agent, would most likely go back to OKC, especially after watching what Chris Paul is doing by himself.
I've actually heard rumors of him going to the Heat. Because the Heat are very obviously making a move for this offseason.
I don't know where Oladipo is. I don't know where he's from. I don't know where he went to university, so I can't tell you. But if he wants to go take a home discount and go back home, I don't know. But I feel like OKC would be a nice fit for him.
So certain teams like the Suns and Miami have made a play for this upcoming offseason.
Yeah.
The other thing is that both teams are reputed, the Suns and the Heat, they're known to have front offices and health staffs that rehabilitate players who have injury histories. Where you look at Shaq, in both cases was revitalized.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Jimmy Butler coming to Miami and making a difference.
Yeah.
And just being able to prolong Dwayne Wade's career as long as they did. That's I think a guy like Oladipo might be looking at.
Yeah,
but anyway, we'll talk about that once we get closer to NBA offseason.
All right, red-faced with embarrassment. Tom Brenneman has been suspended from Reds broadcast and replaced as an NFL broadcaster after going live with a homophobic slur. And Pease, I really hope this link doesn't have the actual clip.
No, it does not. Come on, man. Bit of trust.
Man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run.
What are we watching then if it's not the clip?
And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again. I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds. I don't know if it's going to be for my bosses at Fox. I want to apologize for the people. I pride myself in thinking
that was his apology as soon as it happened. There's a few things funny about this. He interrupted his apology with the home run call. Also, the ball was hit. This is after he made a homophobic slur. It was hit next to a sign that said "judgment-free zone." I found that hilarious. And the thing is, like, I understand people saying, you know what, cancel culture's gone too far. But the thing is that broadcasters are not hard to replace. If he was a surgeon in a hospital that was revered for surgery, if he was a doctor during a pandemic, that's hard to replace. Yeah. Broadcasters are a dime a dozen. You're lucky to have that job. Yeah, you work for it, but there's so many other people who are working for that. Mo Khan, a friend of ours, for example, a guy who works with Hot Sauce Sports, he's a guy who would love to have that. Brett Bodkin, a guy who's a broadcaster who works for Hot Sauce Sports, would love to have that opportunity. So no, you don't get to keep your job when you fuck up.
Absolutely not.
Even on top of that, I mean, we're a little podcast here in a little garage and everything, but at the end of the day, when your mics are on, I tell you, your mics are on.
Yeah, you're responsible.
You know better to not say stupid shit.
Also, here's another thing. I don't say that, but I'm not on there either.
Welcome to Browntown. Brett Brown has been fired by the Philadelphia 76ers after a poopy-poo-poo playoff performance. I just wanted to get a lot of P's in there for the alliteration. Thoughts?
And the poop with the Browntown.
Of course, he deserves to be fired. I mean, that team. I think that team needs a whole explosion. They need to rebuild completely.
I think the Sixers failed him more than he failed the Sixers. The whole process was supposed to be lose a bunch so you can get assets and players.
Embiid and Ben can't play together.
They do this. The thing is, they do the same thing. And so the one thing I will say about Brett Brown's coaching is he hasn't worked in a way where either Simmons or Embiid have become better shooters. He hasn't worked out a way to better space his players. There was a lot of guys on the Raptors who have similar skill sets, but we saw what Nick Nurse was able to do with that team. So I think Brett Brown's probably not the coach for that team, but I also think the 76ers have not done enough to surround them with the players that can best help that team. And look, they ran off a guy who could in Jimmy Butler last season.
It's true. Big truck. Very, very good. Butler is a Hall of Fame, not Hall of Famer, All-Star player.
Nothing better. We came across a story, not to say it's fake, but it comes from Chad Ochocinco Johnson, so he's known to embellish at times, where he basically said he used to jerk off and jizz all over his receiver gloves before a game in order to make them sticky, and also because the only person he trusted to catch balls other than himself was his children.
So I don't know about you, but I don't believe a word of this. And what is?
Well, I still couldn't find a real source. It was a source. The source was pretending to be Bleacher Report, so I have my doubts as to whether or not this is legit.
So what's the weirdest place you ever jerked off into?
So I'm pretty good with I'm environmentally friendly. I try to use stuff I'm gonna throw out or compost anyway. So if I'm gonna get rid of this napkin, I'll use that. So one time there was a sports bag I was getting rid of, so I just did it into that bag. It was cool because I could be sloppy. I didn't have to aim.
I did it into my pillowcase once and I forgot about it.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah,
That's pretty bad.
yeah.
Eagle?
I don't know, actually. I'm trying to think about it.
Just make one up, dude. It's a podcast.
Is that
You
it?
can't say you don't know.
Is that it? Because I got to run.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't think of one.
Let's go.
That's it.
Last little bit here. Hard Knocks episode 3 just aired. We actually don't have it in Canada just yet, so I'll be watching it very soon.
I won't be watching it.
Just to give you a quick summary of what the episode name would be if I were to describe it based on what I've read. The pads come on, but the gloves come off.
Oh, that's a good one. So maybe they jizz into their gloves.
Just going to say, Chad
Yeah.
Jozinko, he
Yeah.
makes a guest appearance, shows the players, listen, you can't touch each other, but you can touch yourselves.
I think this is
the
an
way to do
episode
it.
where they all jerked off to each other's gloves.
Absolutely. The Circle Jerk episode. Terry, you've been Terry. You've been Eagle. I've been Peas. You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports. Thanks, everyone.